Hey everybody, welcome to Sound Bombing. I created this show for people who want to experience a radical, life-changing journey through the sounds of my diverse guests. I hope that each sound you hear on this show will strengthen your faith, encourage your dreams, and challenge you to awaken the greatness within you.
Drop the bomb. Drop the bomb. We're gonna drop the bomb. Drop the bomb. We're gonna drop the bomb. Drop the bomb. We come to drop the bomb. Drop the bomb.
This is a journey into sound. A journey which along the way will bring to you new color, new dimension, new values, and a new experience.
Lamar Darnell Shields.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of the day is. Welcome to another exciting edition of Sound Bombing. I'm your host, Dr. Lamar Darnell Shields, and welcome to my show. I am the creator of Sound Bombing, and my goal with this show is to introduce you to people with ideas that will help you unlock your potential. Just like our last guest last week, Molly McLaughlin, she talked about sleeping. She talked about the revolutionary way of sleeping, this new way, and believe me, I really, really needed it. And today is no different. I'm so excited. I have an amazing guest who you're probably looking at right now. But you all know, if you are new to the show, you don't know this. If you're old to the show, we always start out with our breaths, our 3 breaths. And what that will do is that creates and lays the foundation for our work, because we like to bring positive energy into the space. So my old heads, I'm sure you're already set up. I'm sure you got your feet planted on the floor. I'm sure you got your palms facing up and your shoulders rolling back. To my new folks, that's what we want you to do. Put your feet on the floor, palms facing up, shoulders back, and relax everything in your face. We're going to start with our 3 breaths. The first one, inhale, 3 seconds, exhale. The next one, 5 seconds, inhale, let it out. The last breath, 10 seconds. And let it out. What is that called? That is called the breath of life. And we always start out our days with the breath of life. I'm so excited that you decided to join me today. And yes, I'm rocking my gangster vegan shirt today, and also my Puma shirt. Puma is not one of our sponsors, but I'm still rocking it because it matches my shirt. But I love my gangster vegan because you all know I'm a vegan. I'm not a gangster, but that's a whole nother conversation. Let's get this party started. According to Brian Tracy, successful people are simply those with successful habits. Did you hear it? According to Brian Tracy, I'm going to say it again. Successful people are people who have successful habits. However, as we all know, bad habits are hard to break. They're deeply ingrained into our subconscious behavior because you learn and repeat over time and time again. And bad habits interrupt your life and prevent you from accomplishing your goals. And especially since we are in this pandemic, all of us had some goals in 2020, and a lot of those goals have gone out the window. But today we're going to sort of bring you back into those goals. Sometimes with our bad habits, they jeopardize our health, our mentality, physically, and they waste our time and energy. And we don't have time to waste. But most of the time, bad habits are simply a way of dealing with stress and boredom. Everything from biting your nails to overspending on a shopping spree to drinking every weekend, wasting time on the internet, except right now, can be simple response to stress and or boredom. But of course, sometimes the stress or boredom surfaces out of some of the deep issues that we are dealing with. These issues can be tough to think about, but if you're serious about making changes, then you have to be honest. And are there certain beliefs or reasons that are behind the bad habits? And is there something deeper, or is there a great fear that you're dealing with? I'm sure you're thinking about those reasons. And that's why I'm so glad that you joined me today, because I have a Micha Goebig. I love that. Micha Goebig is going to tell us how we, how me, how you, how us, how we can recognize some of the causes of our bad habits and give us some strategies on how you can unlearn. You hear what I said? Unlearn them and finally quit once and for all. Who am I talking about? Micha Goebig is a life and leadership coach, published author. She is efficient, pragmatic, solution-driven, and directed. Her Unlearn series comprises 4 main topics: imposter syndrome, the inner critic, negative self-talk, perfectionism, self-sabotage. Her second focus area is on habits and routines. Quit over drinking, smoking, over shopping, instead building healthy habits to make our life better. Micha is a trained coach with one of the leading Germany executives. She's been traveling all over the country. She is on a mission to make women more selfish, as in help them to turn their life around by putting the oxygen mask on first. Micha has an 8-week online coaching experience coming up September 22nd. The 2020 Go Big Accelerator is coming right now, but you are going to get a taste of Micha Goebig as she joins me in the bomb shelter. Micha, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Lamar. Happy to be here.
Well, I am happy that you decided to be with me. I know you have a busy schedule based on all the things that my engineer and my producer said when they were doing all this research on you. So we know you have a busy schedule. So I'm honored that you decided to join me. But I need you to let our listeners know where you are calling from, where you are from originally, and how are you doing since this pandemic has taken off.
So originally I'm from Frankfurt, Germany, or I'm from a small town, but I spent most of my time in Germany, in Frankfurt, and that's what I call my home. And I moved to Seattle, Washington in 2013. So, and I am about one of the only people who didn't come to Seattle for a tech job. I came for love, and I've been here ever since.
I love it. You said you came for love. So you went to Seattle in a place where it's always raining, where it always feels sad, and you found love in Seattle.
Well, I found the love first. And that
You found the love first. Okay, there we go. I like that. You found the love. See, she's giving us strategies already. You found the love first. Well, how long have you been out of Germany?
Yeah, since 2013 now. I have lived in the US before, so it wasn't as big of a change as it sounds like going from Germany to the US, and I have family in Chicago.
Hey, Chicago. And I'm from Chicago, Micha, so I'm always excited when
that's my favorite place in the US still to this day. Yes.
You got me already. Now I'm really going to pay attention to you because you said Chicago. I really pay attention to everybody, but of course people know I love my city, even though with all its challenges and all its issues.
Yeah.
So Micha, let's get this party started. How did you become a life coach, and why did you want to become a life coach with all the drama that people are dealing with on a day-to-day basis? You could have done anything else. Why a life coach? And then how did you become a life coach?
Yeah, actually drama is a good keyword here because I am German. I don't do drama. And, I mean,
I like that shit. I'm a German woman. I don't play around with it. We do not. Do you know we do in Germany? We don't have patience for drama. So you're the perfect person for this.
Right. And of course, when I was younger, there was enough drama in my life. I mean, of course, that's age-related drama. But I don't want people to make their life harder than it has to be. It can be easy. Yeah. I mean, not all the time. There will always be challenges. But we don't have to make it harder just because our brain tells us stuff that are only thoughts and we take them for the truth. And that's how we create our mind drama. And so I had my first coach about 15 years ago in Germany when life coaching was really not a thing. And I asked her the other day, because we're still in touch, how I came to her. And she's like, I don't really know. So we just got to meet somehow. And I said, I want to check in with her once a month for self-improvement. That was my mission at that point. And of course, I learned how much more she can offer to me as a one-on-one coach. And I had at that time, still have that business. I have a boutique communication agency for the luxury car industry. And at that point, 2011, 2010, I was kind of bored with it because I'd done it for a while. And I had been teaching I had coached some of those car industry executives on having phone calls in English, giving their presentation, like their general meetings in English, those things. And she said, well, you have so much experience with workshops and coaching. Why don't you actually become a coach? And I'm like, right. And I wasn't ready to be a life coach back then. My first training was with an executive coach. So I did business coaching, career coaching more. And eventually I'm like, when I moved to the US, I realized life is more interesting than business. So
It is.
And all the things we experience at work that make us struggle are still issues that I can solve when I focus on myself. And so that's where I bring the life coaching into a business environment too.
So since the journey has started, you have been doing quite a bit of work. I want to go back to your German roots, because it's interesting. You know, people have this idea of what Germany is and the direction it's going. And it's not a political conversation, but when you talk about coaching, how has the coaching process, how is it different from being in Germany as opposed to the United States? Are the Germans, are they receiving it more? Because you said, you know, starting in Germany, learning my coaching practice in Germany, and then coming to the US. How are the Germans receiving coaching? Is it something new to them? Is it something like, I don't know if I want to do that? How are they receiving it over there?
It is becoming more popular, but back when I had my coach, everybody was like, what's a life coach? I mean, what are you doing there? Are you in therapy? And I'm like, no, that's a different thing. But I think the entire mental health and self-improvement, personal development debate is quite a bit behind, at least from my environment here in Seattle. I don't want to say from the US in general, but comparing what I'm experiencing here, people are extremely aware of the options they have, and they're making those decisions for themselves. And I think that's especially in this young town, Seattle, with a lot of millennials. I think the millennials are way ahead of me and the other Gen Xers on personal development and those things.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Now I know your practice is typically focusing on women. Have you always been passionate about supporting the work of women, or are you starting to cross over more, working with men as well?
I do still work with men. My focus is on women because with my background in corporate communications in the car industry, guess who I mostly worked with for the first 20 years? That was mostly male engineers. So coming here and being an immigrant has really shifted my focus away from working with people who are, in whatever they do, the majority culture. So for me, it's beautiful to, of course, we can't do it in person anymore, our workshops, but just like the last couple of years, going to, let's say, a coding school, and seeing that the face of tech is not only a bunch of cisgendered, straight, white guys. There are people of all skin colors in the audience. There are women with headscarves. There are non-binary people, whatever. There's a huge range of people, and they are the face of tech, but they don't feel it yet. And that's what got me really into the space of primarily working with women and other people who are not the predominant culture in tech.
So since you've started working with women and since the pandemic, what are some things that you're seeing show up a lot in many of the women that you engage, let's just say during this pandemic? Or has there been a shift in the women that you work with? Has the behaviors changed, the thought patterns? What are you noticing about them?
What I'm noticing, first of all, is that, of course, the anxiety level has gone up for many people. I mean, for basically everybody, I'd say. And for some people, that's a very evident process, because it brings out other challenges they're having, right? Let's say, if you've always had a tendency to be a perfectionist, and now your anxiety level rises, then of course, anxiety's close buddy, the perfectionism, rises as well. And so that's the one shift, is that issues people are facing are becoming more pronounced. And women tend to need more social interaction. And suddenly they are deprived of this personal interaction, and maybe they have to homeschool suddenly without having decided to be a homeschooler. Suddenly they are homeschoolers now.
Some of these women, like, I did not sign up for I like my kid, but I did not sign up to be the principal, the cafeteria lady, the custodian,
all
the
of it,
disciplinarian, school police officer. All of those roles now are shifting.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, it is hard on everybody. Like, I know you focus a lot on women, but it is hard on everybody right now. And that's why I've been sort of using my platform to really talk about, not only just talk about, some of the people like you that help you unlock your potential. And that's why I brought you on, because I want people to know how you've been able to do that. But many of us are really, really dealing with anxiety at an all-time high. And even though I'm glad that you focus a lot on your time and energy, but you start on women, but I'm sure you're starting to see a lot shift. What are some of the most important self-care tools you use to teach your clients that then they can carry over? Because my listeners come into to the bomb shelter wanting to know some very, very specific strategies that they can actually use. What are some of the tools that you are using to help engage your clients?
So depending what their personal situation is, I try to find very specific, I call it microdoses of self-care. Let's say last week, a client told me that she's forgetting her antidepressant medication. And I'm like, well, that's not good. This is a really bad time to fall off the wagon with your medication. Without being a doctor, of course, I'm not giving them medical advice. But I said, so we figured out that if she puts her dogs, she has an older dog, if she puts her dog's pills in the bathroom with her pills, and she would never forget to give her dogs the pills. She loves that dog. So I'm like, okay, and you love yourself too. So you take your pill first, and then you give your dog the pill. So we're trying to find, because that is self-care. That is taking good care of yourself.
But you know what you did? You just sort of broke a habit. Let me give you an example. I like that. Make sure she doesn't take the dog pills. That's a whole nother conversation.
Right.
But I
asked her if they look different.
so I call that sort of like a brain hack, because again, you are changing the behaviors. Like there was a woman that I had on the show who talked about habits and the history of habits and how we sort of shift those things. And she talked about how she hated working out. And so, when you work out, you got to wake up in the morning, sometimes early, got to put on your gym shoes, put on your jogging outfit or whatever you're going to work out on. And so she said she dreaded, she loved to see the benefits. She loved to see how her body looked. She loved how her body felt, but she didn't like the process. So what someone shared with her, what she said, what she taught herself was this. She says, well, why don't I just keep my running shoes by my bed? And that was okay, but she had to go deeper. What she did that I really appreciate, sort of what you just said, she then decided to sleep in her running gear. So there was really no excuse. So she slept in her running gear and her shoes are right there. It's the same thing that you're saying with this person. If you forget to take these pills, then if you're feeding the dog, you're giving the dog his or her pills, then they're there. These are the things that we need to start doing to sort of right to break these habits. So then we can add some good habits into some of our life. What are some other things that you're discovering and you're helping them deal with?
Yeah. So generally, it's about making it as easy as possible to establish the good habit. And I strongly believe in breathing exercises and meditation as like the emergency toolkit. And I hear a lot from people, oh, but I can't meditate. I cannot make my brain stop. And I'm like, of course you can't. Nobody can. The Dalai Lama can't either. So I said, but can you sit on your behind and close your eyes and just be? Just not do anything? And I was like, yeah, of course I can sit on my behind. I was like, see, okay, you're already meditating. So I'll keep it that simple to just take people out of this thing where they basically benchmark their meditation, like competitive meditation, against, I don't know, probably a teacher. And we are establishing little habits. Like I had the same issue with meditation until I told myself, well, I'll just meditate the way I brush my teeth. I'll just do it every morning.
And there's so many ways you can meditate. It's walking meditation, cleaning, making your bed, like you said, brushing your teeth. All of that is a meditative state. I think that many of us feel that we need to go to India, meet a guru there, meet a yoga there. We need, and not to say that that can happen, but you're right. There's some things that we can do, and we meditate naturally. Like I was a great meditator until I found out it was called daydreaming. When I was in third and fourth grade. But again, that is a part of the practice. And I think people are looking for these strategies that are in the stratosphere. It's like, no, there's some basic things. Brushing your teeth, putting the pills right there next to them. Those are the things I think that people need to hear more of. And I'm loving the practical stuff that you're sharing. So here's another issue that I'm hearing, Micha, is how then can you help our listeners, or me or anybody else who's listening, to stop being our own worst critic? I hear that a lot with women, since you spend a lot of time with women. When I'm talking to my daughters, they're creating this narrative in their head. I'm like, I didn't say that. I'm like, where did I didn't say that. And they're creating this narrative. My daughter, who wants to move out, she's self-quarantined because of COVID and college, and she wants to move out and get her own house, her own apartment and everything. And I'm talking to her about the financial connection to her. And she said, why don't you have faith in me? And I'm like, I never said. So I said, I never said that I didn't have faith in you. I'm walking you through these strategies. So how do we then stop being our own worst critic? What are some things that we should start telling ourselves right now?
So the first step, like always, is awareness. I need to realize what I'm doing to myself. That's where it all starts, right? Because I need to hear what I'm actually saying and making that connection. And it's good. I mean, as a dad, when you say, I didn't say that. Where's that coming from? You help her raise the awareness, because there is something that she interpreted that way. And her mind tells her that doesn't have the faith in me to be financially independent or something, right? So just as an example, and that is where we have to start, the awareness of, where does that thought come from? Why am I telling myself that? And most of these things actually come from a time when we were too young to see all the shades of gray, or maybe say all the colors between the black and white. I mean, when you're a kid, you're all in or you're all out. It's good or bad. It's right or wrong. Kids don't have the capacity for the nuances yet. And that's how we learn our world. And some of that just gets stuck as a limiting belief. And that's where I have to get started. And from there, I am actually a big believer in positive affirmations. And I start every day telling myself, Micha, I love you. You're having a great day. And in the evening, I end my day with, I love you, Micha. Say your name. Actually, say your name. I love you, Micha. And you did the best you could today.
What does that do for you, Micha? Explain to me. I get it. But what does that do for you, saying your name and saying those positive affirmations? I know the word affirmation comes from affirm, saying I agree. But what does it do for you? And what are you seeing it do for your clients? Because I like us to talk about our stuff, because we could talk about all the people in the work, but what does it do for you? And what are you seeing? What are you hearing your clients say that they're learning from it after they started doing it on themselves?
So like myself, most of my clients who actually try it out feel totally ridiculous in the beginning. It's like, oh, this is weird. This is weird. And I'm like, look, think about it. How can it be weird to love ourselves? How can we feel weird about that? It's like we want unconditional love from everybody around us. We want unconditional love from our partners, from our kids, from our parents, from our pets. I don't know, from a lot of people, but we are not really willing to give it to ourselves, and that doesn't work. So they start out by feeling weird, and then they get into the habit, and what it can do. I work a lot with women who, like me, have been called high-strung all their lives, and who have high energy, and having that self-love practice usually gives us more. We are holding space we're giving ourselves a little grace. So
and we need grace right now, because there is so much propaganda from our family, from society and culture, especially for women. I want you to talk to the women right now to help them unlearn that, because there's so many roles that are thrown on women. There's so many things that you're supposed to do this and supposed to that. But how do we help, or how have you helped women unlearn all of that propaganda that's in their mind? Because again, and I don't like to put people in boxes, but when I say that to my son, let's just say about an apartment, his first thing is not to think like, you don't have faith in me. But when I'm talking to my daughters, in their head, because of what they're learning in school and media about women and things, like now their dad is saying what you can't do. So how do you help women unlearn all of that stuff from society, from family, from their partners, and then to let that thing go?
It takes a while. So I don't want to give anybody the impression that that's kind of like an overnight thing. It requires consistency. That's why I work with people to develop their own morning or evening affirmations. And they say, do it every day, and have affirmations pop up on your phone, or have sticky notes on your computer, or have a marker, write something on your bathroom mirror. Do all these things, because all the crutches that help you get there are one little step. And for women, we usually look at, how do you define being a good daughter, being a good wife, partner, being a good mom? And what if that's not true? What if that's not the only way to do things? Do you know someone who does it differently, and you still think they are cool people, or they're doing a great job? And that's how we just start to break it open. And I work a lot with people who, like me, stand between cultures, so to speak. Immigrants or first-generation Americans. That is a very tricky thing, of course, because the parents came here to give their children a better life. And that's a high bar and huge expectations, because if you have parents who tell you, we came here to give you a chance to become whatever, rich, let's say rich, because that's usually, that's one of the big ones, right? Do something that gives you a solid, stable income, good money. And you want to be an artist and not a doctor, or I don't know. Then you're stuck, because you don't want to hurt your parents, because you have that story that they gave up so much to do this for you.
I love that. So now I want to park right there, and I want to focus on you as a coach, and because I think a lot of times, Micha, people, they look at the clients, they look at the blogs that you have, the videos, the books that you've written, the workshops, but they don't really know the things that we've gone through as an individual. Can you share with our listeners how you quit over drinking, smoking, and shopping? What was some things that you did to remove yourself from that, the road that you were going down?
Yeah. Let me start with smoking, because that's where I realized the process I'm actually applying. That's where I try to spell it out and cut it in like steps that I can actually teach. The first thing was, when I really wanted to quit smoking, was like, man, millions of people have done it. It can't be that hard. Everybody says it's so hard, but what if it's easy? That was my first thing. That was kind of my light bulb moments. Like, what if it's easy? And then I started journaling about what if it's easy. If it's easy, I'm doing it right now. Because I really don't want that dirty habit in my life. And then I'm like, well, then I guess I'll better make it easy. And so that was basically, I put myself in a position where I say, I'm not believing my thoughts. When my brain tells me this is hard, I say, no, it's not. No, it's not. I can make up my own different story. And my story is that quitting smoking is easy. So, and then I realized another thing that was keeping me back is I did not want to be an ex-smoker. Right? Because it's kind of that pathetic situation of cravings, those things, very unappealing with people I had seen around me who were just like, oh, I wish I could just have one cigarette. I'm like, this is not what I want. And so I decided to just make up my own news story. And my news story was, I am turning myself into a non-smoker.
So you did this all by yourself. There were no prompts. There were no other things that were there. You just said that this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, and I'd read books, of course. And in Europe, there's a very popular series, Alan Carr, Easy Way, I think it's called. Okay. And that's where it came from. That I had read that years before, but then I just decided to put my coaching, my coaching training to self-coaching, and really make up my set of mantras like I am a non-smoker. So as a non-smoker, I don't have cravings. I don't want to step outside of a restaurant to have a cigarette after my meal. I don't want that. I enjoy my evening at the restaurant, talking to my friends. So I really looked specifically at my non-smoking friends, which in America are plentiful. Germany has a higher share of smokers, so that's why. But and then you can create the thoughts and energy to make it easier, especially if you go from, there are lots of people say, I've tried it before and I failed. And my attitude turned to, no, I didn't fail. I did quit. I just picked it up again. I didn't fail. I did it. So I can do it again.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, we have to have an intimate relationship with failure. Yeah. In this country, and I'm saying this across the board, we look at failure as such a negative thing. Yeah. And we know from Thomas Edison talking about when they quoted him about how did you feel when you discovered the light bulb? He said, well, I failed 1,000 times until I found it. So, but there were so many other things I discovered about myself. And I think we have to have and I'm so glad you shared that, we have to have a very intimate relationship with failure and understanding that it is okay. I remember being a part of a group of guys and our chant was, failure is not an option. And I was out there chanting, failure is not an option. Failure is not an option. I started thinking to myself, failure is an option because it's going to happen. But if I embrace it and have an intimacy with it, because then it will be different. It would be much different. So I love how you sort of switched that around and said, yeah, I failed. And I didn't fail. I just picked it back up again, but I was successful, but I picked it back up again one more time.
And I think we can do that. Failure is so important in the learning process because especially if you have those deep wired, let's call it a bad habit because I'm not talking about addiction. I'm not a medical professional. So if you are an alcoholic, there are other people who are very qualified to help you. But those bad habits are deep wired too. Let's say if you learned from your parents, your family, that when you're unhappy, you buy something and that'll make it better. It's like, oh yeah, something bad happened, but here's a new bike. Now you're happy again, right? Are you happy? That is probably a habit we're taking into our adulthood, and that leads to overspending, gets us into debt, all these things. And in the American culture is very, let's say, debt positive. So people are encouraged to get into debt, which is different in Germany where I come from. But so you're enabled with an over shopping habit. And so you really have to look into it.
And so you dealt with over drinking, smoking, shopping. what was going on in your life at that time that really pushed you into that behavior, the drinking, and then the drinking, the smoking, and shopping? And then talk to me about the shift. When did you shift? Because you talked about talking to yourself, but what took you down that road? And then what was your aha moment that you just took a shift and said, I'm going in a different direction?
Yeah. So I would say this smoking and drinking alcohol was always closely connected for me to being part of a social group. Because when I grew up, that's what you did. And when you look at the statistics, alcohol consumption in Germany is very high. It's a country where it's normal to drink alcohol, different from the US.
Let me tell you, I know as a language teacher living in Latin America, we sent kids to France, and Mika, I'll never forget this. And kids were writing back home, was like, yes, Senor Shields, we're at so-and-so's house, and it's dinner time, and they're drinking wine. And I'm like, oh, no, you're not drinking. Well, you told us to be a part of the culture, right? You told us to take everything. No, not taking that in, but I do sort of get that part of it.
Yeah. And so it's part of the culture. You don't question it usually. People who don't drink in Germany are usually either they are on a medication that doesn't go with alcohol, or they're pregnant, or they are recovering alcoholics. But everybody else seems to be drinking. And smoking back when I was young was also a thing that I think back then it was still considered the cool kids smoke. So that is something where eventually, even in Germany, I asked myself, it's like, if I could have, let's say, a glass of wine that was without alcohol, without the intoxicating substances, how would one? I think I like the taste, and I'm like, yeah, but all the drama, right? Over drinking causes drama. And so I started in 2012. I met a friend, and we decided to do a 1-year project of not drinking. And we called it the Betty for the Holics.
Wait, what did you call it again?
The Betty for the Holics. And we had a blog, and we got a lot of attention for it because my friend is an actress. And so us doing that together. But we felt that we touched a nerve. There were so many people who said, oh my God, when you wake up in the morning and you check your text messages because you remember texting your ex-boyfriend or something, right? And you're like, oh my God, did I really do this? And I'm like, I don't want that in my life anymore. And that is where you give yourself a gift goal, right? Like, no drama is a gift. Or these days, I had times afterwards where I would go back to having a glass of wine. And then until I realized even a single glass for me nowadays makes me feel like I have a toxic imbalance in my body. So I am giving myself the gift of not drinking because I want to get up in the morning, be on top of my game, and build an awesome coaching business. That's my gift goal, and that requires clarity of mind, and that for me comes with sobriety.
I love the gift goal. I think that is a great idea. So walk me through the steps. So I am struggling with whatever I'm struggling with. Walk me through the steps of changing my habits. What are some things that I should start with first? What are some questions that I should be asking myself? And then how do I maybe create a level of accountability to make sure I stay on the right path? And then we're going to talk about your 8-week program, because I know this can support people further down the road.
So I would start with downloading, with a brain dump of why do you think it's normal? Or what does it give you? Because you wouldn't have a behavior you consider a bad habit if it didn't give you something good, or you feel it's something good, right? So you need to be honest about that. What am I getting from, let's say, drinking? Community, maybe. Maybe I feel that alcohol is the glue that keeps my circle of friends together. or relaxing or whatever. So I have to be very clear on these points because I will need a new habit there.
And are you saying, so are you eventually going to teach them how to replace an old habit with a new habit?
We're definitely trying out new habits.
Okay, go ahead.
Because especially when it's about relaxation or a habit of, oh, this is the end of my workday. That's a classic in Europe for the glass of wine. It's like, oh, I'm done with work. Now I have my after work drink. I'm like, there are other things you can do after work. Or this, I have a cigarette to take a break. And I'm like, have you ever stepped away from your desk for 5 minutes without a cigarette? Of course. I'm like, that is the same break. So we are looking into these things too. But then it starts with, what if it were easy? What would that change? Wow, well, with smoking, for instance, I don't have to wash my hair every day. Oh my God, my clothing doesn't smell. I save so much money in dry cleaning or whatever. All these things. What if it were easy? Wow, that would be fabulous. All these things happening for me. And what if it were the best thing that could happen to me? Because people we're scared. What's the fear? What are we afraid to lose? So we have to be very clear about, we spend a lot of time on that first step. Because getting to that level of honesty with yourself is brave. It's vulnerable, it's brave, takes a lot of courage, and it takes some time and kindness and grace with yourself. And then we go to, okay, how can we form more positive thoughts? How can we form the mantras, the affirmations? How can you teach your brain that this is outside, this is your new comfort zone? It's safe for you to leave that old comfort zone and build something new. And then we shuffle outside of the comfort zone, right? Step, step, step. Always in baby steps. Nobody needs to leap. We can baby step out of the comfort zone, and that helps us to grow. And keep there's like, when the comfort zone is at the core, out there is a huge fear zone. But there is this thing, right? Like a little ring around the comfort zone where the fear starts, but there's still a little comfort. And when we shuffle outside of our comfort zone, we can achieve change a lot because we are not in full-blown panic mode. The fear is there, but it's not that strong yet that it keeps us from taking positive action.
I love that. It's great practical strategies on, removing some of the bad habits or some habits that you want to unlearn and then replacing them with some other things. So Micha, I know that you have an 8-week online program called the Go Big Accelerator. Micha Goebig, get it? Mm-hmm. That's taking place, 8-week online course. What should my listeners expect if they sign up, when they sign up for this course?
Mm-hmm. So this is actually, we have perfect timing because I will open it to the wait list this weekend. So people who are on the wait list now get first dibs. And it is for 8 people who identify as women. I decided to keep it to women only because what we are doing in those 8 weeks, just trying to kickstart the transformation, we are looking into limiting beliefs. And from my clients up to this point, I know that in a group with mixed gender group, they would have a problem with talking about issues like body image and those things. So that's why it's women only, 8 women, 8 weeks. And we're looking into limiting beliefs across the board, just to identify the most predominant issues. Everybody, of course, will get their hot seat, like their one-on-one mini coaching, of course, in the group. There will be, of course, a dedicated WhatsApp or Slack channel for people to support each other during the week and for me to check in if there are questions. And so we are moving on from what are limiting beliefs, why do we want to change them, just setting the basis, and then going through family and culture. what's happening there, there will always be worksheets, of course, so that people can prepare. And after, I'm a teacher at heart too, so it's like there will always be a worksheet.
You said worksheet, homework. So what are some of the limit? Give me some examples of some typical limiting beliefs. And then what was some of your limiting beliefs that you had maybe prior to doing the work on yourself?
Yeah. So typical limiting beliefs can be, I'm just not good at making money, or, well, I've never been slim. I've always been overweight, so that's just who I am. Or I have to respect my parents by fulfilling their expectations. Or I can't be spiritual and focus on having a lot of money. A lot of there's basically all over our lives, depending on usually the first couple of years. And sometimes it goes back generations. It's like, because your parents come with their limiting beliefs. So you might have limiting beliefs from generations back, just because everybody took them in their little backpack of limiting beliefs and carried
and got on the boat or got on a plane or walked over it. That ancestral limiting beliefs, I think, is real. We talked about that before when I had a discussion about a book called It Didn't Start With Me, meaning that they picked it up from the ancestors. So you just gave me a new term. I like the concept of limiting belief. I want to thank you for joining me in the bomb shelter. But before you go, let our listeners know how they can get in contact with you and join your course, and if they want to engage you even more.
Yeah. So first off, my website is gobigcoaching.com. And if you want to join the wait list right now before it opens, that would be right there on the homepage. And sales to everybody else will open in about a week. So before September 22nd. You can, of course, contact me through the homepage too. Also, you will find me on LinkedIn under Micha Goebig. My last name is Goebig, but you'll definitely find me. And I spend way too much time on Instagram. So if you want to send me a DM through Instagram, I will definitely see it very, very quickly, and I'll respond to anything. And my website also has a scheduling link, and there's a free 15-minute check-in call. No strings attached.
Well, listen, I told you all, Micha Goebig. You got a name like Micha Goebig. Everything is about going big. And before we let you go, make sure you go to her website. I told you she has some exciting things there for you. Women, 8 weeks, amazing course, unlimiting beliefs. I love that. But before you leave, we have to do something. It's called our super bomb questions. And this is one of my favorite part of the show, where I get a chance to ask our guests some cool questions that were sent in from our listeners. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so here we go. Micha, what is your favorite quote, or maybe a favorite spiritual or Bible verse?
My favorite quote right now is, "It's not my job to rescue people from their feelings." That is the one I have on my computer right now in a sticky note.
I love that. I love that. What's your superpower?
My superpower is turning fear into excitement for myself and others.
What's your spirit animal?
Tiger.
What brings you to tears of joy?
Seeing the first woman president in every country. Sorry for being political.
I got you. I'm feeling that too. What brings you to tears of sorrow?
Loss of people in any way, shape, or form.
What do you wish you had more time to do?
Ice skating.
What deceased person would you most like to meet to get advice from?
My dad.
Oh, Dad. What books have you given as a gift, and why?
I give away all books I read. So, but what I buy a lot and give to people to read is Atomic Habits by James Clear and Deep Work by Cal Newport. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Deep Work and Atomic Habits.
What's your morning routine?
I get up, I meditate 5 minutes, I journal. I do two pages, morning pages, and I walk my dog.
Now, since you are in America, if you were in the Mrs. America talent competition, Micha, what would your talent be?
That's a difficult one, see? My talent would be to ask people the tough questions.
I love that. And I love your spirit and I love what you're doing. So Micha Goebig, I want to thank you for joining me in the bomb shelter. It has been a pleasure speaking with you, and I wish you much success in all the endeavors that you've embarked upon.
Thank you for having me, Lamar. This was really, really great. I love your show.
And I also want to thank my amazing engineer, my Haitian brother, Alexander Blanc, my African sister, Nicole Klempaka, being an amazing producer and supremacy for our theme music. And all of you for listening. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to know more about me, go to drdrlds.com. If you want to pick up any of our merchandise, go to the website. I won't be traveling anytime soon, so I won't be speaking anywhere face-to-face, but I will be speaking virtually. And as always, do something for someone other than yourself today. Give back to somebody. Go and support our elders. Make sure you stay COVID-free as much as possible. Eat those strong foods that will build your immune system. Thanks for tuning in. And I love you, and you can't do nothing about it. You've been listening to Sound Bombing. Peace.